Hey, everybody. Welcome to Power Hour with me, Ron Harris. And, of course, the one and only, the inimitable Giles Tiger Thomas from all the way over in the UK. Giles, we're going to be talking about the top stories of 2020-25. Had to break this up into two parts. So much happened this year, Giles. It's never a dull moment in bodybuilding. I almost don't know where to begin, but let's start with Pittsburgh, Giles. This was a big, big story. I was going to start with the Arnold because, Samson lost to Derek, but this was the real story, I'd say, that kicked off the year was Pittsburgh Pro and Derek taking the win over Nick Walker. I had the clip all lined up, but you can talk about it for a second while I find it.
Are you on your correct mic? Because it sounds a bit echoey.
Yes, I am on my correct mic.
Okay. Sorry, just double checking. Well, I thought Derek was crazy to continue his prep after the Arnold Classic, but obviously he was committed to Pittsburgh. So, I thought, okay, another 6 weeks on top of the Arnold prep.
Yeah, it wasn't right after. It was a while.
Yeah, it was a good few weeks. And I was thinking, this is going to cost him remember I said it quite clearly, and I was really certain of what I was saying. I said, I think doing Pittsburgh will cost him the Olympia because that extra prep was cutting into his off season. It was cutting into him sort of taking a few weeks off. And I thought he was absolutely crazy for doing this. And I think I still, to be honest, though, the funny thing is, I still think it was a mistake him doing the show, even though he won it. I know it sounds like a bit of a ridiculous thing to say because he had a good outcome. He won 100K. I wouldn't have taken this. I wouldn't have taken this risk. I think it was too. I mean, obviously, the best case scenario was he did win the Olympia. He did win all three shows. He won the Arnold Classic, Pittsburgh, and the Olympia. But I think I think there was nothing really to prove other than supporting a new show that obviously is run by the Manions. I think he really gambled here, and it nearly didn't pay off. And I know kind of the end result is kind of all that matters. But I don't know. I suppose it sounds a bit silly, really, because he won 100K and he won all three shows. So really, what is the gamble? But I think what would you say the consensus was? I think about 75% of people thought that Nick should have won this, and I know it doesn't really count because all that counts is those 7-8 judges on the judging panel. I think it doesn't really. I mean, we've seen how much there's certain cases where. Like with people going on about Samson's conditioning and all that, it's like it does get to them. And I know it doesn't really matter, but I still think it was a mistake in doing this one. I think it was an unnecessary gamble. But good on him. He won it. But I did have Nick winning this. Remember when we took it down pose by pose? And we all agreed pretty much that Nick was winning most of the poses. So, and I think something now, Ron. Do you think Pittsburgh for Nick was a better look than the Olympia?
Yes, 100%. And it's weird that he doesn't think so. I don't. He stated that he didn't.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I said, Nick, I thought Pittsburgh was a better look, but it's ironic that Nick doesn't think that was a good look. Nick himself doesn't think that. And I don't know why you're looking at those pictures and videos. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Giles.
I think he looked better at the Olympia. I do. I think he looked better at the Olympia. Yeah, I do. I mean, look at especially his back shots. We look at his back shots at the Olympia. His back shots at the Olympia were absolutely sensational. And you know what? I've been going back and forth, arguing with all these, fans and, supporters of Nick who are saying that Nick was off at the Olympia. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was not off at the Olympia. I mean, I think you said to me actually on the last Power Hour we did, we said that he was a little bit flat and he looked better at the finals. And if he looked like he did at the finals, the pre-judging, things would have been different. I don't think they would have been different. I think they'd have been exactly the same. But I thought he looked really good at the Olympia. I know he was bigger, I thought he looked. Is this the Olympia now?
Yeah, the bald head.
That's the Olympia. Oh yeah, the bald. yeah. I think he looked. I think he looked even more impressive at the Olympia. I'm going to stick with that. Okay. I think his back shots were. I thought his back shots were absolutely fantastic at the Olympia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you talked about, who thought Tyler Mannion in his breakdown video said he had Nick winning, and, he's third in command basically in this whole organization. It came down to it was so close that they couldn't decide. Steve Weinberger, the head judge at Pittsburgh Pro, had to come up with this extra lightning round or a sudden death round. And it came down to Nick not keeping his midsection sucked in fully during those final few poses. That's how close it was. But it wasn't close. A lot of people had him as low as 8th at the Olympia. He ended up in 6th. He goes from almost beating Derek Lunsford, the Olympia champion, who had just won the Arnold a few weeks before, to being trailing significantly behind Derek, Hadi, Andrew, the top few guys. So I don't know. I did prefer the Pittsburgh look, but that's why this is subjective and we all have our opinions. I just don't understand why Nick didn't like the Pittsburgh look. Like, what was wrong with his Pittsburgh look?
So he prefers the Olympia look to the Pittsburgh, like I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only thing, you've said it there, I think the only thing that really was the midsection at the Olympia. That was the only thing really that for me wasn't as good as it was at Pittsburgh. Because if you look, people are now saying like Nick's physique peaked at the 2021 Arnold Classic. And I know he was it wasn't much smaller. I mean, he was still huge then. But the thing that really stands out in 21 is his midsection was in check. And because he's got those really nice, thick, bumpy abs. And like they're getting the abs now are looking quite shallow because everything's pushing. Do you know what I mean? It's like stretching the abs out, and it's not looking his abs because he's never had the smallest waist. That's a 22 Olympia.
Yeah.
You can already see that's quite a difference there between the 22 Olympia and the 21 Arnold Classic. But look there, the abs look. I mean, he got 3rd here, but the abs look kind of like pushed. They look a bit washed out there, and for me, it does kind of spoil the picture. So, I mean, I think with Nick, do you think he's actually capable of? No, I'd say capable. Let me think about what I'm going to say now. Do you think he'll actually like bring the weight down? Because with Nick, he positions himself as like the freak, the mutant. And I know he's all about pushing that body weight up, and it's all about getting bigger and freakier. And he's never got the prettiest shape, so he's just going to try and be the biggest, freakiest thing on the stage. Do you think he's ever going to go, right, okay, I really do recognize now that to really improve and get back up into that, go from 6 to say top 3 or be a challenger for the title, I really do need to bring it down. Do you think he'll just do the opposite and just try and get bigger?
Well, I think he's a smart guy. We've both talked to him before. He's not a dumb guy. So I think he's going to look at where he was placing and what looks he was doing better at. And when he won the Arnold, I think he was 255, something around in that range. Here, he's probably like 260, 3rd at the Olympia. So the heavier he's gotten, the worse his placings have been. I mean, this year Pittsburgh being an anomaly, but when we look at his updates now, obviously he's probably in a health phase. He's probably on just TRT doses, but it looks like he is streamlining his physique back, dialing it back a little bit more, because it's all about the midsection with this guy. He's never going to have a tiny little waist, but he can get that midsection down, but he can't compete at what was he, like 270 at the Olympia, something like that, 275. He's never going to have a flat midsection at that weight. It's too much for his body and his structure. I'd like to see him dial it back down. Yeah.
Let's look at, say, Ramy as an example. From 2012 to 2000, really up to 2020 Olympia, Ramy was kind of bringing a bigger package every year, but it was the same strengths and weaknesses with his physique. He needed to bring this area up, that area up. He needed to bring this in, and he would. But every year he was putting on 5-10 pounds, say, as a sake of argument. But he was kind of the same physique. Do you know what I mean? He was the same physique, just bigger, and he wasn't really addressing. And it wasn't until 2020 when he realized he had to address those weak body parts. The glutes, the hams, the calves, just kind of like balance everything out. And also bring it down, because what was he, 290 when he won the Olympia, but he was competing around 305, 306. So he had to drop 15 pounds to win the Olympia. Sean Roden in 2018 dropped to 238 from 250. So he had to drop 12 pounds to win the Olympia. I just had another example in my head there as well. It's just slipped my mind now. But no, examples of where guys, they it's not just about getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's about actually Bruley in 2016. I mean, he did what I thought wasn't, before I saw that at the Body Power Pro in 2016, I didn't think it was possible what Ruli did with his midsection. Because I'm saying when he went to Q8 the first time, when he went from Rotterdam to Q8, and he put like 30 pounds on, and I'm sure he won that Finland show, because I remember looking at the pictures on the MD website, and I was just like, oh, he's ruined it. He's a big square. He's a big block now. It looks like a big fridge. And then he and I remember at the show, I was there with Ronnie, and somebody from Amsterdam says, oh no, he says Ruli's got even bigger. And I just put my head in my hands, I'm like, oh no. I said he's doing the opposite of what he should be doing. They says, no, he's brought the waist in. And I said, well, hang on a minute. You're telling me that his physique has gone to another level, but I don't think that's possible. And it wasn't until he came on stage and you could see that everything had got bigger, but he'd really taken serious steps to bring the waist in. So it can be done. It can be done. So if Nick could do what Ruli did in 2016, that means that Nick could continue to get bigger, but also bring the waist in. So we have to wait and see if he's going to do, because the thing is, like, look at Martin there. Martin's got beautiful symmetry. He's got a nice tight midsection. Derek, I think Derek is kind of, he's managing to keep the waist pretty small, but with Nick, he's matching them maybe beating them in terms of like thickness and density. But for me, Nick has to bring the quads up. He has to bring the waist in, and he has to bring his chest up. And I don't know why people don't really talk about his chest very often, because I think they're too busy looking at his back and his delts and his arms and and also his legs from the side and the back. But I don't think anyone really addresses the other weaknesses of physique. So I think with Nick, all he needs to do is try to do what Rami did in 2020 and just balance everything out and forget the scale. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe actually do use the scale to see if he can pull it down. Because for me, do you think he's stubborn, or do you think he's actually trying? Do you think he's taking critique on board? Or he's just going, do you know what? I'm going to do me. I'm going to do it my way. And I'm just going to come in. I'm going to try and hit 300 pounds at 5'8", whatever he is. Do you think he's one of them? Or do you think he's actually capable of actually taking proper steps like Roden did in 2018, like Ruli did in 2016? Do you think he's capable of that? Or do you think he'll just carry on exactly the same?
He's capable of it, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold reserve judgment until we see what he looks like the next time he gets on stage. If it's even bigger than he was at the Olympia, and the midsection is as big or maybe even bigger, then I'll know, okay, he's just about being a freak, and he's just going to play to his strengths and not worry about what the critics say. But his placings are going to go down. There are guys with great aesthetics now. I mean, we got Samson, we got Andrew. We have people that have all this mass and this better, superior structure and a small midsection. It's going to be tougher and tougher for Nick if he doesn't conform to the aesthetic standards or bring that midsection. It's all about the midsection. He could lose a little size and he's still going to be the biggest guy up there in terms of thickness and density. He doesn't need to be too thick.
I think this is a real make or break time for him now. I know he had those couple of years he wasn't doing the Olympia, and the fans really slammed him for it. But I think this is I think we're really going to see where his head is at in this next show, whether he does the Arnold or just does the Olympia or maybe goes for the spring shows. But I think we're really going to see what he's made of, because he's someone he comes under a lot of scrutiny because he does have a huge fan base, and I think a lot of people now, a lot of it, I've seen some of his even most loyal fans kind of turn on him a little bit, and I think it's sad to see because we saw the same happen with Jay in 2008 and then 2009. So I've seen it happen with guys like I said, Jay in 2009. They can, if they really apply themselves and they really apply a sort of a plan of action and actively work towards it. I mean, I'll be honest. I think Dennis James and Chad was the turning point for Rami in 2020 because Dennis James had Rami in his house and he needed to do that to literally keep his eyes on him so he would do absolutely everything necessary. I just don't know whether, I personally can't say, I don't know Nick well enough and I don't know his mindset well enough to see if he's, I don't want to say intelligent enough because he's intelligent, but I want to see if he's capable. I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. Capable if he's able to, do what Ruli did in 2016. Because honestly, mate, when Ruli came in front of me and Ronnie, and he hit that shot, like most muscular, it's like, it did. The picture looked photoshopped because I was like, how can you get the physique bigger, and also not just keep the midsection similar? I mean, he actually made it smaller. So whatever these guys are doing, they've proved that it can be done. And like I said, I think with Nick, like I said, I think it's definitely the midsection. He has to address that. He can't deny that anymore. Because the thing is, the judges might really, because I mean, I've seen a lot of people say that, a lot of people think that Brandon Curry did deserve to beat Nick. So that would have taken him down to 7th. Who was 8th? I can't remember right now off the top of my head.
Bonac? Tonio?
Bonac, no, Bonac was Bonac. Yeah, Tonio 8th, and then Bonac 9th, and then Vito 10th.
Right.
So these guys, it wouldn't have taken a lot for those guys to beat him, really. I think the judges recognized the conditioning and then the size and stuff like that. But I feel like they won't give him another pass if he doesn't bring something a little bit different. I think they're going to spank him for it. So I think this next year is going to be very, very important for Nick.
But I will say this: the Pittsburgh show this year was great for Nick because he had just missed out on the Olympia a few months before, and he had lost some fans. And taking second here, I think, was the best thing that could have happened in terms of regaining those fans and getting more new fans and followers, because so many people thought he deserved to beat Derek. Because Derek's thighs, his quads, I should say, they were definitely downsized here. They had lost their pop. Nick gets criticized for his quads, but I think Nick's quads were at least as good here as Derek's were in Pittsburgh. So even though it was a blow and he didn't get the $100,000, I think that the Pittsburgh Pro worked out very, very well for Nick Walker this year. It was probably the best reception he got out of he won the New York Pro and the Olympia, but this was the highlight of the year in terms of Nick's popularity. So sometimes losing isn't a bad thing. It's not a horrible thing. Anyway, you there, Giles?
I completely agree, mate.
Yeah.
Samson, when he got second at the career show when Samson got second at that career show in 2020, I interviewed Samson and I said, Samson, I said, you getting second place here has actually probably done more for you in terms of, attention, popularity, people rooting for you than if you won. So sometimes it's not always losing a show doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the worst kind of outcome. It can actually, depending on the circumstances, like Nick at Pittsburgh or Samson at the 2020 career, I think sometimes it can actually go in your favor depending on the circumstances.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to another one. Sam Sulek, of course. This was a guy that I never thought was going to compete. I thought he's a social media bodybuilder, millions and millions of followers. He has almost 7 million followers on Instagram, almost 4.5 million on his YouTube. Yeah, so huge on social media, but never had stepped on stage. And this year, he finally did it. He got up at the Arnold Amateur, Classic Physique, did his own prep, coached himself, came in very, very good condition, and he walked away with a pro card. So I had to step back and change my opinion of Sam and say, this kid is the real deal. He's a pro now. He earned it, even if it wasn't strong. I know I shouldn't diminish his victory, but it wasn't the greatest lineup. But you know what? That's not his fault. He picked a show that was right there in his hometown, Columbus, Ohio, and he walked away with the win. And good on this kid. I'm no longer going to say he's a social media bodybuilder. He's a real bodybuilder, and he deserves all the accolades that he's getting now. This was the overall post down right here. The overall comparisons. Go ahead, Giles. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, he looked good. I think doing the Arnold Classic as well. I think doing the Arnold Classic as well was a good move for him, because I remember Andrew when I was on the tour with him last year, and he told me, he said the reason I went for the Arnold Classic Amateur, he says, if I can't get my pro card there, then I'm not good enough to turn pro. He says I could go and do this show or that show and not travel as far, and technically be an easier win to get my pro card. He says, but I want to test myself at what is probably most likely to be a more international, higher, more competitive event. So I kind of respected Sam before. He wasn't kind of my I'm not really his demographic. I'm not a young, broccoli head teenager training at the gym, on White Monster and pre-workouts and stuff. But, I get he fills that need, and I don't really follow his stuff, but I think he does a great job. And I think he did, I think he definitely earned kind of a bit of respect, really, that I think he didn't have before, doing a show like this, because he actually did, test himself at one of the biggest stages in the world and got his pro card. So I was really happy for him, and I'm looking forward to him turning pro as well. Doing his pro debut.
Yeah, well, that will happen in early March at the Arnold Classic. He's going to do the Arnold Classic because everyone that wins the Arnold Amateur in any division, I always knew it was bodybuilding, but I think it bleeds over into every division. You're qualified. You're invited, I should say, to the next year's professional stage. So we will see him up there with whoever shows up. Maybe it'll be Mike Sommerfeld, Logan, Terrence. We haven't. The list should be coming out any day now. But curious to see how he does as a pro. Good on him.
Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, that's a big show to do, to go up against those kinds of standards. But I mean, at the end of the day, I like the fact that he's testing himself. It's better to come 11th or 8th or something in a really, really tough show than go do some obscure pro show and get first or second. That at least he's challenging himself. He's having the balls to go up against. And also, do you know he likes cats? I like him. Yeah. Are you aware of the body weight limits, what he was as an amateur compared to what he can be as a pro? Because I mean, I'm looking at his physique, I'm thinking he's going to struggle against someone like a Summerfield or a Logan, guys like that. I think he's going to struggle. So I'd imagine he'd have to put on a significant amount of size, or even add a lot of quality, muscle that's going to balance his physique out even better. I think he might struggle in an Arnold Classic if he hasn't got any wiggle room, basically. What do you think, Ron?
Well, I know from amateur to pro they get another. I think it's roughly 10 pounds difference for the same weight. Wow. So, but he was close to it, and I remember, I don't know the exact weights, but I remember when this happened. Here is with Larry Wheels. When he turned pro, a lot of people were saying, for him to fill out and have the density and the thickness, even though Classic's not all about size, but the people we're talking about, they have more mass than he does. He would probably have to be well over the Classic limit. So it's really interesting to see what he looks like. He will have 10 more pounds. And I'm also curious if he's going to continue doing his own prep, because how many of the top coaches would jump at the chance to work with Sam Sulek?
I think that's a bit of a gamble for somebody at his stage. I think really he needs to be jumping in with a Hani Rambod or a Cito or a Patrick Tour or one of these top coaches, because it's a huge gamble for him to be coming into an Arnold Classic in your pro debut. I think he could definitely. I mean, I'm sure the kid's very knowledgeable, because I don't really follow his work, but he's got himself to this level. But to go from winning your pro cards as a Classic to then not just competing in a pro show, but competing at the Arnold Classic. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's not going to say no, because Arnold is really, Arnold and Brian Powers are really going to want him in the show. So he's going to be a big pull by doing it. But I'm not expecting him to come in and be top 3, top 6. But, for that reason alone, I think that's worthy of respect. Do you know if he's doing any other shows apart from the Arnold Classic after it?
I don't, but I wouldn't be surprised. It would make sense for him to find one of the less competitive Classic shows. as
well.
Because there's one every damn weekend. They're all over the place. Go to Nebraska or Alaska or Timbuktu, somewhere like that. Well, you're making your debut at the second biggest stage in bodybuilding, on the Arnold Classic stage.
I think if he made top 10, I think that would be a huge relief and a huge win for him. Because the thing is, what the fans are like? They'll be thinking he's going to come in and win this, and you and I know that that's just not possible. No disrespect to him, but he's very young, isn't he? Was he mid-20s?
He's like 24 now.
24, yeah. So I'm not looking. I'd be very shocked and very happy if he made top 10. Because knowing the standard of you look at let's be realistic. He's got a great physique. The kid looks fantastic. He's got his pro card. But look at the top 10 Olympia, the top 5 Arnold Classic guys, and then these guys are on another level. So I hope he's. So I think he really. Like, look at these guys. I mean, he's just not in that league. But I'm not going to say he couldn't be, but yet he's not at that level. So if he could get like, say, 8th to 10th, I think that's a really good starting point. And I think he'll earn a lot of respect as well, because if he can just get a good starting point in his pro debut, everyone knows he's young. Everyone knows that he's going into the second biggest classic pro show on the planet. So I just don't want those fans or whatever to be disappointed if he doesn't make top 6, because I don't see him making top 6. But, if he can squeeze in that top 10, then at least then he can say, well, this is the start of my journey, and just give me a couple of years to get going. And I'd be interested to know where he is in terms of body weight with his cap as well as a pro. But I do think if I was like advising him or whatever, if he asked me, I'd say, mate, you might benefit from, you're on it's a whole different ball game now. You're not just in the pros, you're competing up against the top pros. And I think really he could benefit from having someone like a Neil Hill that's not just going to give him a diet and just tell him how to train, because he knows how to train, and I know his diet's a bit crazy. But I think he could do with someone to guide him. I think that's what he needs. I think because thing is, it's a whole new arena when you're competing. It's like when you're going into that level, it's like you said, it's almost like a different sport altogether. So, and I don't want him to get chewed up and spat out, and also to be discouraged, because even if he gets 10th, 11th, or if he doesn't even get placed, I don't want him to be, or his fan base to be too disappointed, because this is a huge leap, and he's doing it without a coach. So I think maybe a Neil Hill or Patrick Tuor should get a call from him.
I suspect that Sam he's a very smart guy too. Yeah. I suspect he's going to know in his heart of hearts he was good enough. His knowledge was good enough to get him that pro card. But if he wants to continue and have any chance of placing in a pro show, he needs to enlist some help from a Neil Hill or a Cito or anybody that's just very, very experienced and high level at that.
He reminds me of where I was when I was coming out of the novice and intermediates, where there was no classic back then. The next step up was like the heavyweights or super heavyweights. And back then it was like Zach Khan, Daz Ball, and like Alvin Small. And I was like, where the hell do I go from here? Because, it was such a leap up. I was just like, well, I'm pretty much done now, because the next level up is so far away. So I just, I think Neil Hill would be a really good fit, or Patrick. I think. What do you think, Hani Rambod?
Well, Hani is retired, so we can't.
Yeah. I suppose. He's still perhaps Hadi though.
Yeah, well, I think it's. They've never come out and said that, but I'd be very, very surprised if he did not prep Hani and Hadi. I always mess that up. Hadi for the. But yeah, I agree with you. Somebody who's a very hands-on, like a Neil Hill or a Patrick Tuor would be ideal.
Because Patrick and Neil are very good. Like you look at like Flex Lewis, Francesco Barrios with Patrick. These guys, they're very good at guiding the younger guys, because they're almost like a father figure to them in a way. Because it's like I said, like Flex Lewis. He needed a lot of molding and reassuring and guiding. From this guy from Wales, and now he's literally in a couple of years he's with the 202 coming along, he kind of had something to jump into that meant he could be a success straight away. And you think about how rapid, how big a jump it was to go from competing as a light heavyweight at the British finals or in Wales to then competing as a 202 in a pro shows. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of it's psychological. A lot of it is, we've seen a lot of guys get chewed up and spat out. I mean, like Urs, I remember I interviewed him the second time, and he said, I said, what's the, you got successful very, very quick. What was the difference? And he said, well, to be honest, he said, I got myself a mind coach. He says, and to be honest, I didn't realize how beneficial and how much I needed it until I got it. Because, these guys, we've seen it happen where guys sort of just, I'm sure if you really thought about it, some names of, they come out of nowhere. There's a lot of expectation, and then they kind of get chewed up and spat out and to kind of discourage. Remember Trey Brewer?
Oh, I mean, if we really thought about it, we could come up with probably 100 names from over the years.
Because it is a huge leap up. I remember like with my ex and stuff when she was getting ready for the Olympia, I would probably be doing a 45-minute a day in the kitchen, reassuring her and getting her psychological ready from winning pro shows to going into the Olympia as like technically one of the favorites, as rookie of the year. So it was like, to go from that, a lot of it was the psychological pressure, and I think that's where behind the scenes we don't see a lot of what goes on in some of these pros' heads, because you think about guys that are climbing up levels. Think about what certain pros that are moving up, and you think that it's a smooth transition, and you don't know psychologically the strength and the challenge it takes to keep moving up onto that level and the next level, and not just stagnate or move backwards or just quit altogether.
Yeah. So we wish Sam the best. Let's turn to this was definitely a very significant story. We almost lost Ronnie Coleman this year. You were sort of entangled in this story.
I lost my hair. I lost a lot of my hair from that, mate.
Because what happened was, for those
you nearly lost me, mate. You nearly lost me.
Yeah, so Giles was set to do an Olympia All-Star tour with Ronnie. I think it was your third tour with Ronnie, fourth? It would have been?
Fourth.
And the night before, so he was going to fly out to UK the next day. He collapsed after an appearance and was taken to the hospital with sepsis, which is an infection, and it's the third leading cause of death in the world. Wow. Millions and millions of people die every year from sepsis. And Ronnie was in a coma for, I think it was 2 weeks. It was touch and go there. We know he had the very best medical care, but still, this was Ronnie, a guy who's 60 years old. It could have ended very, very differently. We could have lost this great 8-time Mr. Olympia and this wonderful human being. Luckily he pulled through and everything, but yeah, you found out the hard way because you were supposed to pick him up at the airport the next morning, and you wake up and your phone is full of messages, right?
Yeah, no, I had messages from Honey Rambard, Susan, his wife, Sean, his assistant, and there was other people trying to message me and saying, obviously because they were trying to get the message to me of what happened, because I literally got up at 5 a.m. and I was about to drive down to Heathrow. It was like a 4 or 5 hour drive, and then pick him up for about midday. And then I woke up at 5 a.m. and all these messages, and I was just like, Lauren, shit. They said, Ronnie's in the hospital. And I was like, what? So obviously I was thinking straight away I knew he'd missed the flight. And then Sean rang me, and then Susan rang me because she was at the airport by herself at Dallas Airport, ready to catch the first flight the next morning, because Ronnie's daughter was with Ronnie when it happened, and it was their first trip ever away that it had just together. So she was on, because she was seeing Ronnie acting strangely and being rude to fans, which is, I've never seen that once. So obviously she rang her mum and says, Mum, Daddy's acting a bit weird. He's being rude to fans. Is that normal? She says, absolutely not. Put him on the phone to me. So anyway, long story short, we know what happened. And yeah, that was, I was obviously at the time I was like they were feeding me information, but they were saying, look, Giles, don't tell anyone what we're telling you because you're part of the inner circle, but just follow what we're putting out on social media, please. Because I was getting messages from, I won't say, but there was like big names. And they were saying, Giles, what really is going on? And I said, I'm so sorry. I just can't tell you. I said, I don't want to be the one person that shares that information to you, and then you share it to someone, and then they share it to someone. And it's just right now, they need to keep it contained. They need to be sensitive to Susan and the children and everything, because on the Monday, because I spoke to Brendan on the Wednesday or something, and he said, because he'd been out there for 3 days, Brendan, Ronnie's business partner, and he said, Giles, I'm satisfied that Ronnie's pulled through. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, Monday, he says, Susan was signing for Ronnie's organs to be donated. Ooh. Because they like Monday, they said, look, this is the next 48 hours are going to be crucial. Certainly the next 24. If he makes it through the first 24, there's like a 60% chance he's going to make it through the second day. And then by the day 3, they said that he was stable. Plus they flew him by air ambulance to the sepsis unit, like a specialized unit. And I think by the Wednesday, Thursday, they knew that he was at least going to live. Because on the Monday, they said they were literally it was like they were trying to work out whether the body was going to, because it can shut the organs down, and it's a really horrible way to die as well. But I spoke to Ronnie, obviously on the tour a few weeks ago, and I said, what was it? And he said, I had a cut on my leg. It was a cut on his leg, and he said he had some cellulitis, and he said that's what they think caused it. Wow. So, but yeah, it was terrifying. I spoke to Susan, and the strength. She was literally in an airport by herself ready to fly out to Ronnie, because the daughter had to go stay with the promoters, the promoter and the wife. So she didn't know them. So her 13-year-old daughter and her husband is in this situation that she needs to be out there for. And obviously it was happening very, very quickly. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I had breathing issues for about 6 weeks after that. It took about, because I was struggling to train because I couldn't, it's called respiratory depression. It was triggered by the stress of, everything. Because it wasn't just obviously Ronnie, but also had to sort the tour out and reschedule everything. And obviously there was large sums of money and stuff. So there was a lot kind of going on that, and obviously people messaging me and stuff. And I didn't want to share any information because Ronnie and his team, they trust me. So I didn't want to be the one to put that news out and cause any additional stress, because like, I know Chris Cormier messaged me and he basically told me what I knew and I couldn't confirm or deny it. And I just said, I can't remember what I said, but I don't think I responded, or maybe I just like put a thumbs up or something. But yeah, that was scary, man. It was real touch and go there. Yeah.
Well,
so
the one thing that you said immediately after it was actually a blessing that it didn't happen while he was on the Imagine, because it's a long flight from. Does he go direct from Texas all the way to UK?
I think there was one change. No. It was I can't remember. I think it was one change because the next flights I got direct. But I think it was one change. But they did say, because Brendan said to me, he said, "Look, Giles, that was 24 hours away from being your problem." And he says, and Ronnie was told, if he'd have got on that flight and the symptoms had shown up on the flight, by the time he landed, he said he definitely would have been dead.
Wow.
Absolutely, there's no doubts. He said it was unlucky, but also very, very lucky. But can you imagine, like me being at the airport, now it comes like paramedics with Ronnie on the whole idea of it was just, I mean, I've got to count my blessings and, for everyone, because it worked out. He pulled through. He was in the right place, kind of at the right time.
Yeah. And
thank God he survived. But I think that's why that last tour we just did was so extra special, because Susan came on that tour with him because she said to us, like Lauren was for about 6 months or a year after my heart surgery. She was, every tiny little, if I say ow or any tiny little thing, she'd be like, what? She'd be like, she said, and I said to Susan, I said, look, Susan, I said, Lauren went through the same thing with me. I said, that protectiveness, that feeling of, you want to be with him all the time and make sure he's okay. And you want to check on him 24/7. And the fact that there was no option than you not coming because you wanted to make sure that he's okay. And I mean, he was absolutely okay on the tour. He was absolutely fine. I mean, he used to get a bit tired sometimes, but we just kept a close eye on him. But yeah, he was fine. But it was extra special, that tour, because the fact that we just managed to get it done, and thinking, because his heart's still only working at about 50-60%. It was at 20, and then he had the heart valve replacement, and it was up to like 40-50. And he said, by the time I check, he said, I'll probably be working on 50-60%. And then once he gets back to 80%, which is probably around now, they're going to allow him to start back training.
Yeah. So obviously, if it happened on the plane, it would have been awful. But even if he had landed in UK, say you had just started the tour and it happened, he would. I'm sure you have decent medical attention in the UK and everything, but he would have been away from his family, and it would have been a whole other situation if he had to be in the hospital in the UK for a month or however long it was. But yeah, you got the tour. You guys got it rescheduled, and everything went off. The universe unravels the way it's supposed to, apparently. So,
that's right. No, I to be honest, I think that I do think that, but and also the tour was amazing as well. And I mean, that was 10 stops as well, pretty much back to back. We had 1 day rest.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good, and it was it was a very good feeling when, we waved them off goodbye and it was all done and dusted and everyone was happy, all the fans, all the gyms, and it was because it's so intense day after day, and then the next thing that it's done, and and you're on to the next one. So I was chatting to Ronnie yesterday. Actually, he was messaging me yesterday morning. He seems good. I think I haven't asked him if he's back training yet, but I know he was really, really. Oh, he's dying to get back training. He said, hang on, the tour. He said, another 2 months. So that's probably around about now. He's probably going to be able to start back training. So I think that's going to be a real cause for celebration, because you know what Ronnie's like. He needs to train. He loves training. So
he's one of us. He's one of us. All right. Next big story was
Ronnie Strong.
Is he calling you now? Samson guest posing. So this happened in Romania. It was 6 weeks before the Olympia, and this broke the internet, the bodybuilding internet, social media platforms. He was looking far leaner than we'd ever seen him at that point out, but many people noticed he did seem like he was looking a little downsized, which, as we know now in hindsight, which is 2020, we can say, wow, him and his coach wife, Marlena, they were taking a gamble. They were doing what they were supposed to be doing in terms of getting him into a level of condition we'd never seen before, but at the very real risk of coming in much smaller. And we now know he ended up at the Olympia 20 pounds lighter than he was when he won it. And he dropped 25. All the way down to fourth place. Was it 25? So, yeah, well, I mean, I remember you were very concerned when you saw this video came out.
Well, I was up training. Me and Lauren had a weekend up in Newcastle, and Lauren was at this assessment thing, and I was training at a gym that I took Lee Priest to, called Viking Gym in Heaven. And I finished training, and I watched the videos, and my heart sank, and I was like, no, because I could see, yes, he was slightly sharper in the glutes and the hams, but I could see that he was losing size. So anyway, I got to the comments, and I was like, what the heck? I was so shocked. Everyone was like, oh my God, he looks amazing. I'm like, and I thought, I can't remember whether I said anything or I didn't say anything, but like I remember thinking, no, he looks smaller, and I just couldn't believe the comments. The thing is, he would have been reading those comments thinking, yeah, I'm bang on target. And the goal was to maybe, I don't know, eat back up into the show or something. But I just thought, I was concerned, mate. I was really concerned because you could see that he was clearly like quite a lot smaller if you compare to how he looked at even the Arnold Classic, let alone the Olympia when he won the year before. But I was really confused because I don't know why when you've won the Olympia and you've brought a look that won it. Yes, you could be harder, but maybe that was actually the best way to present your physique at its best. Yeah. I don't know why he started listening so much to the gotta get leaner, gotta get leaner, gotta get leaner. And also the tactic of not using the scale, because I think by there you would have been able to compare the difference in body weight. I mean, look there. I mean, Andrew there at the Arnold Classic looked like Andrew needed 20 more pounds to be competitive with Samson. And at the Olympia, it was completely switched around. It looks now that Samson needs 20 more pounds to be competitive with Andrew. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he just wants to try and forget about this Olympia as quickly as possible because it was an absolute disaster. I mean, my feelings were quite clear on the live watch party. I was just like, I was so disappointed for him because to be there, I know how much being Mr. Olympia would mean to him, how much he loved it, and how hard he worked with all the appearances and also how hard he worked because I think he just had it in his head that the whole conditioning thing, conditioning. And like I said, I imagine it's like a freaking woodpecker on his bloody, like, yeah, you've won the Olympia, but, your conditioning wasn't great. And it's like, he just kind of pushed too hard. He kind of got a bit obsessed about, getting that conditioning and it didn't work out. So I can imagine how disappointing it was for him. And like I said, I've made it quite clear. I think he should have been fifth. I think Martin had him. So I just, I don't really know what to say about it really, because it's, I'm sure it's something he just wants to put behind him now. But also I was thinking about this today, actually, like he also did kind of what Urs did. And he did something that I didn't think was actually possible, but the way he clawed it back in those 2 weeks between the Olympia and the Prague show, like I mean, I had my head in my hands every time I saw these updates. Oh, I'm back up to this body weight. I'm back up to that body weight, and I was just like, oh no, you're gonna blow it. You're gonna blow the midsection. You're gonna overcarb. You're gonna spill over. And having said that, I think he did an absolutely fantastic job in Prague, and. I mean, it was a completely different Samson to the one we saw at the Olympia. It still wasn't like 100% Samson because the back wasn't kind of like it was at the Olympia last year. But it was in 2 weeks, I think he performed an absolute miracle. And up to that last round of posing, I think this is what you're showing now, up to that last round of posing, I mean, you can watch the live stream. I literally could not decide between Martin and Samson. And it was only in that last round opposing where I felt like Martin really pulled ahead, because Martin really managed to maintain his peak beautifully over those 2 days. And Samson, just up to that very last round, was really holding it. And like I said, he just kind of fell apart in that last round. And he started sweating, and it's like he just literally deflated and smoothed out. And whereas Martin just managed to just pull ahead in that very last round.
Yeah, well, we know from Samson's updates and his videos, he's definitely not going to try coming in leaner at the expense of being any smaller and losing mass and fullness. He's already up to, goodness, what is this, 352 pounds or something?
Ron, what do you think about that, mate? What do you think about this getting to 350? Because he's what, 40 years old now, and he's getting to pushing body weights to that kind of level. That's 25 stone, mate. I'll be honest, like, you know, I've had my own cardiac issues, and I'm telling you, mate, doing that at that age, I'm not sure that's sensible, mate. What's your honest feelings?
I'd say if he's taking all the precautions in terms of working with doctors, having his blood work, his heart scans, and he's not risking his health and life in any way. You know, some people are more prone to that kind of damage than others, and I don't know where he would fit into that spectrum. But yeah, I do agree in general, getting bigger and freakier and heavier at 40 years old and up is typically not the best idea. And, you know, you as someone who survived a heart attack, you have a whole different perspective on that than the average bodybuilding fan probably. Once you've stared down the barrel of your own mortality, you have a different way of looking at these things. But yeah, I don't know. But I know for his career, and if he wants to get his Olympia title back, he probably does need to get bigger, or at least as big as he was before, if not bigger, because that was what won him the Olympia. And that's a strong point. The mass, along with the shape and the structure that he has, it's deadly when he's 90% condition, because I didn't even see any better condition at the Olympia at 280 than he had been at 300, 305 pounds. He just looked like a smaller version of the same guy with a lot of the back. The back was missing a lot of fullness and pop, and the legs were a little bit downsized too.
For me, the only thing, let's take Prague, because that was more like the Samson we know. I mean, like, let's forget the Olympic, because that was just whatever happened. I mean, we were watching the live watch party, and his arms, his legs, everything just looked, I mean, it was a disaster. Let's just forget about that. But let's look at Prague as more like the Samson that we know and love. I think that the only thing was his legs they were like 95% of what they were at the Olympia, but his back, that was the only thing. I don't know whether he started training his back differently, but like I can see it there, like his back isn't, like even in the frontal bicep, it's not popping like it did at the Olympia the year before. I mean, if you need to check, just go and literally, get a laptop and a phone or whatever and hold it. Like his front lat spread there is nowhere near like it was at the Olympia last year. Because I actually spoke to, like I said, Ildiko, one of the judges, and she said Samson was a lot better than the Olympia. She says, but the only thing that didn't come back as much as all the other body parts, like from the Olympia to Prague, was his back, because his real lat spread at the Olympia when he won it last year was freaking amazing. I mean, his real bicep was a great shot, but because I remember when I saw the shot, and also his front lat spread at France and the Olympia last year was beautiful. I thought it was incredible. So I don't know what happened to lose not a lot of thickness, but it kind of, because things with Samson, his physique is about symmetry and proportion, and like, look at him there. To be honest, I think my favorite part of Samson's physique is when he walks out. I honestly, when he walked out at Prague, I kind of I jumped in my seat. I was like, why? Because his physique really looks like Dorian's physique used to come together in the compulsory poses, but then you used to see the picture of him with his Olympia trophy at the end, and he'd just be stood there normal, and it's like, you think that's a Mr. Olympia. The physique didn't look right. Yeah. Samson's physique looks its most appealing when he's just walking out with his head down, and you see that beautiful midsection and the wide shoulders, and because he's got an amazing chest, fantastic legs. He's got great. Everything just flows. Everything flows beautifully in perfect harmony. But that was so I was kind of I was excited when I saw that at the Prague show, because he's the only thing is, I mean, at the Arnold Classic, yes, his midsection did get a tiny bit wider. I mean, that's really nitpicking. But I would love to just see him bring that package again, you know, because I thought like this Olympia finals look that he brought when he won. I mean, it won in the Olympia. So there's only 20 guys in since 1965 out of all those hundreds of thousands of bodybuilders. So that look was good enough to win the best title in the world. And most importantly, he fully deserved to win it. I'll be honest, I just panicked. Maybe because I have had my own cardiac issues, but I think when you start talking about body weights and 350, the thing is, the problem is though, he carries it really well.
Yeah.
Like that video you just showed there where he's posing. I mean, what is he? 340, 350 there?
Over 350, 352.
His abs are still sharp. Like he's not carrying any, there's no body fat. It's just he looks like a kind of like a swollen version of what he is when he is on stage. So how can I say, okay, don't get to 350 to 360? I think the thing where my alarm bells start ringing is when he starts focusing on body weight rather than the actual physique. I'd rather be hearing him say, right, I'm going to war on my back and I'm going to get my back. You know, like when Jay knew he had to bring his back up to be competitive with Ronnie, he started doing 2 back days, 1 width day and 1 thickness day. So that's what he changed. And in 2005, he came on stage, turned to the back, and finally he was hanging with Ronnie. Yeah. So I'd love to hear something like that, where it's like say Nick say, right, I'm going to bring the midsection down by 3 inches and I'm going to record it with a tape measure. And it's like, I don't want to hear him going to 350, 360, 370, because to me that's meaningless. Because it wasn't body weight and it wasn't, you know, that one in the Olympia. It's his proportions, it's his symmetry, it's the small waistline, it's the, you know, just the balance and the, you know, the fact he doesn't really have a weak shot. I don't really want to hear about body weight. I don't think it's relevant.
Well, the only people who are going to be pleased if he gets to 360, 370, I think 360 is happening within the next few weeks. You know, the people that don't really understand the sport and how the physique's been built. Like, whoa, he's 370. Wow, you know, 400 pounds. Oh my goodness. You know, they don't understand how that's going to equate to the stage.
Yeah, but Ron, it didn't help Greg Kovacs. It didn't help NASA.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And you don't see what I mean? Like, you know, and also like, it's just, I just think, because it's a lot of the thing is, you know how much work it is to hold even 220, 230 or whatever, you know, to think about like the amount of eating and the stress on his digestion and stuff like that. I just think, I would say to him, mate, you don't need to kind of get to 350 to 360 to sort of come back in people's eyes, or maybe in your own psychologically, maybe in your own mind. You don't need to do that. You just need to do like 20 extra pounds to me is meaningless. I mean, you can do that by bumping up the carbs or adding in a bit of junk food or bumping in some insulin or something like that. We all know how to get heavier, but does that make him a better bodybuilder? I want to see him back to basically what won in the Olympia and won in the Arnold Classic. And that's a really, you know, I don't want to see him. I don't think if he came on stage 20 pounds heavier, we're going to be like, oh, this is a 20 pounds better version of Samson that we saw, because he's won the 2 biggest titles in the world. Right. And I just think I don't think there's any point in, you know, only focusing on body weight, because maybe he enjoys it. I mean, Jay always said, he says, like, you know, the getting to his, like, say 300 pounds or whatever. He said it was the eating. It was like a full-time job, eating every hour and a half. He said it was a drag. He said even now today, he doesn't even enjoy food because of all those years of pushing the food that much. Like Ronnie said, when he worked with Chad Nichols, the biggest thing he changed was his food. You know, it was like from 10 ounces of chicken every meal to 16 ounces now to get up through the night to eat food. It's like, that is really, really intense. And I just hope that, because thing is, also all that food's in that midsection. And if something does to be, I don't know, if something grows or stretches or whatever, like imagine if he came on stage and his physique, everything else was looking beautiful. And then kind of like Nick Walker, where the midsection is just drawing your eye and all the abs are gone because, you know, he's not, Samson is a beautiful physique. And the center of the physique is the midsection. So if he ruins that, you know, if anything, I want to see him come back with a smaller waist, you know, not a bigger waist. So, because I think that would help him, because everything, then it'll make the shoulders look wider and the quads look bigger, and you know, because at the end of the day, it's all an illusion.
All right, let's move on to the feel-good story of the year. This made everybody happy. Behrouz Tabani from Iran. He had qualified for the Olympia, I believe, 3 years in a row, 22, 23, and 24, and could not get a visa. And then finally, through the grace of God and the U.S. Customs and Immigration and ICE and I don't know who, Homeland Security, whoever it was that was responsible. I don't know which agency it was. He got the visa and he finally got to stand on the Olympia stage. This was the official announcement right here on his Instagram. And you know, it was you couldn't be happier because this is a guy that he's just a workhorse. He comes in show after show, consistently in amazing condition, deserved to be on the Olympia stage for years, and just because of politics, international politics had nothing to do with him, was never able to get here. So wow, this was a happy day for all the bodybuilding fans, I think.
I've not seen this video you're playing now, but I can't hear the sound, but look how happy he is.
Yeah.
Like I remember, because I'll be honest, I'm trying to think. I mean, apart from Urs, I'm trying to think of another time when I've been proved completely wrong, and also been at the same time being really happy to be proved wrong, because I would have placed any amount of money that there was no way he was getting to the Olympia this year. So when I heard the news, I didn't actually. I had to double and triple check. I think I was on the group chat saying, Miguel will know, you'll know, who knows? Anybody got information? And I was messaging several people in the pro league and stuff, and judges and officials, and because I honestly thought it was an absolute no-go. I didn't, because I heard he was in the military and all that, and obviously with what's going on, geopolitically, I thought, was a big word. I thought there's no way he's getting there. So I was really, really happy to find out that he got out. Because the thing is, imagine qualifying every year, doing what you need to do to even like I said, even getting a qualification is a huge achievement. To do it 3 times, 3 years in a row, and not be. And also, you've got to keep yourself in a state of readiness. You've got to be in opponent state of readiness, because you've got, even if you get like when Hadi did in 2019, he only knew a week before, but he had to keep himself in condition. Yep. Although I'm sure that Behrouz maybe as a backup plan, so the prep didn't go to waste, because at the end of the day, the odds of it happening a 4th time was probably more likely than him getting the visa. So he was probably thinking, well, if the worst comes to worst, I'll just go do Romania or Prague or something. But I was so happy, and I know how much it would have meant to him and his fans. Because the Iranian fans are very proud, very, very supportive, loving fans, and so I was. This was one of the feel-good stories of 2025 for sure. And I like Behrouz. I think he's a cool guy, and I look forward to seeing him at the Olympia again.
Yeah, I mean the mental resilience to be prepping 100%. How many people could do that when you're not even sure, and especially 1, 2, 3 years in a row, it's been denied and you didn't get to go to the Olympia. How was he able to even have the optimism or the belief that he was going to get to the Olympia this year? I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Is like, can you really be 100% in your prep if you're very, very uncertain? It's very unlikely you're going to be able to get to the contest. So.
Well, like I said, you'd have to have a backup plan and say, look, okay, best case scenario, we get the visa and we get to do the Olympia, great. And then, that's the only goal. Worst case scenario, we don't get the visa, and then I just carry on prepping another 2 or 3 weeks and go and do one of the post-Olympia shows, which I know I can get to. But I mean, so that's the only caveat I can think of that would keep anyone going, because you can be as mentally strong as you want in the world, but if imagine training, like, obviously we were amateurs, competing and stuff. Imagine training for something that you didn't even know was going to happen. I mean, I don't think I could be, I don't know unless I was put in that scenario, because the thing is, there's more at stake for these guys, because it's like, no one gives a shit whether you or I compete, but, the whole countries are behind Behrouz and guys like Hadi. So I can only imagine that it takes a special type of, because I think more and more, I think we're learning in bodybuilding, that I know we've gone over the genetics argument. We all there was a stage in all our lives, individually, even as when we competed, that things like genetics play a role in how good you could be, regardless of how hard you work or everything you do and having the knowledge. So, with having that mental strength to keep going, I think it's something that's not really talked about enough, as the importance of whether you make it or you don't get anywhere in this industry.
100%. So, hopefully this means he won't have any more problems securing a visa in the future. We don't know, obviously, but
do you think he'll do the Arnold? I'd love to see him do the Arnold.
Ooh, I'm waiting. We're recording this on December 11th, that list has to be coming out any day now.
Good.
I'm wondering if it's going to be tomorrow. I wish I had the inside scoop so I could.
I've got Brian Powers' number if you want.
Well, I mean, I could message him, but I don't know if he's going to tell me.
Oh yeah, because I think the Arnold Classic is quite an interesting anomaly because it is invite only, and it's funny because sometimes competitors don't know they're doing the prep or even doing the show until they get the invite.
Right.
It's imagine like not even do I start prep? I don't know whether I'll be invited. I put the application in. And then if you're one of the bigger names, maybe you had no intentions of competing, and then all of a sudden you see the invite and you think, well, the thing is now with the kind of prize money that's on the line, it's like, would you? I mean, even if you had your plan and your coach all set out, right? We're going to do New York Pro, we're going to do the Olympia, we're going to improve on our 8th place from last year, Whereas if you're, if you're doing the Arnold Classic and that kind of money's up for grabs, you're one of the front runners, then you're going to do it, aren't you?
Yeah. Most people know this, but just for those of you who don't, first prize for the 2026 Arnold Classic is $750,000, $750,000, by far the biggest cash prize bodybuilding has ever seen. So yeah,
wow,
who's going to say no to that?
Cool.
Another feel-good story, and you did reference the Miracle Bear, Urs Kalecinski. So this is a time when you and I were both very, very wrong, but we were both so happy we were wrong. I did not expect much from Urs making his open debut this year. I remembered him as a classic guy, and I wasn't a massive fan of his physique in classic. I thought it had some gaps in it, the arms, the back. And when he showed up at this, which one was first? Italy was first, and then he did the one in Germany.
Correct.
I was just blown away, and he won his first two open bodybuilding shows. I mean, convincingly. It wasn't like I don't remember too much controversy about it. Poor Quint Beastwood had to go home again. He took 4 second places this year. Quint 4 seconds and 1 third place. But back to Urs, we didn't see this coming. And I'm so happy.
I did not see this one coming, and I to be honest, it's funny because this is somewhere like I'm sort of positioning myself as some sort of expert, and the one thing I'm most happy about is when I'm completely wrong, because for me, regardless of what I do, first and foremost, I'm a fan, and the thing is with being a fan, we like to see surprising things happen because when you get so experienced and, like you and I have been in the industry 30, 35 years, scrutinizing and analyzing all these shows, watching these shows, following these athletes, getting to know them, getting to know their mindset, their physical, their mental capabilities, you kind of have like a sort of an algorithm in your brain that is pretty good at predicting what is really going to happen. So when I said, I think he's going to be like 8th place or 5th place or something, if he's lucky, went to see him come in and prove me wrong. It gets me so excited about the sport. It's things like this that stop me getting bored. Do you know what I mean? Especially with these smaller shows where you may be seeing the same guys for the 6th time in a row. And, it's you might have one new guy in there that, a local or something, or somebody from America looking to get an easy qualification, So when stuff like this happens, it really fires me up. So thank you, Urs, for creating like a lot of excitement, because like I said, maybe it's the 3rd or 4th show and it's the same lineup, same guys. You've got Quint, you've got Lewis Breed and this guy, that guy, and it kind of by the 3rd, 4th, 5th show you kind of get a little bit okay, here we go again. So because obviously we have the Arnold and Olympia, they're usually the most exciting shows. You've got like Dubai now and the Pittsburgh show, these other shows popping up, but this was a really pleasant surprise. And he did. I was arguing back and forth with people saying he can't put 30 pounds on and physique be as good, and he completely proved me wrong. So I love stuff like this because it keeps us on our toes, and I think once he brings that back up, I think really if you look at his age and you look at where he is right now in the rankings, this guy's like him, Vito, who are the other guys like Quint. These are the guys that are going to be the next generation who are going to be in the top 6, top 10 Olympia in the next 2-3 years. So, because what is he still in his 20s or early 30s?
I think he's only 28.
28. So you can imagine where this guy's going to be in another 2-3 years. So I think this is one of the most exciting, cool things that happen all year, to be honest.
And we got to give him credit because he's one of the few that did not post updates. We had no idea what he was really looking like. We did get the news a couple days before the show that he was 260 pounds, and you and I both were like, "Oh no, there's no way." He was like 230 at the end. The classic guy, or
228. 228 is a classic.
So we're thinking there's no way the condition's going to be there with more than 30 pounds. It's just not going to happen. Good on him. It'll be a nice try. He'll maybe get top 5 if he's lucky. But yeah, again, we love being proved wrong in a case like this. We're both overjoyed at how wrong we were.
But also, he really, it shows you that, because I was thinking, hang on a minute, guy's top 3 at the Olympia. He's winning multiple pro shows as a classic. What the hell is he doing stepping out of his comfort zone if that's where he is supposed to be? Yeah. But actually as an open, I much prefer, like you, I didn't like that last year he did in classic when he got 3rd at Olympia. He had those silly white hair. I didn't like where his physique was going. I thought his upper body wasn't as hard and he was lacking separation and detail that he had previously. His frontal bicep, the lines were starting to go, and I was thinking, but still, he was still top 3 in arguably it is the most competitive class in the men's. The classic physique. I mean, look, pure numbers and quality and quantity. I don't think there's any disputing it. So for him to step out, I would have said to him, if he'd have said to me, I want to go open because I want to go, I'd be like, mate, stay where you are for God's sake, because are you going to be top 3 in the open? Are you going to win a pro show this year? I would have really begged him not to go over to open. But, I think his physique as an open looks so much better. I like what I'm seeing, and I can see the front lat spread. I'm seeing glimmers of a young Dorian, and, that, okay, when he brings the back up, when he brings the arms up and maybe the thing is, his body clearly wants to grow. So if he can put 30 pounds on, even if a lot of it's regained tissue, starved off tissue. I mean, imagine him, it's probably not going to be even hard for him to put on 8 to 10 pounds in the next year. And that's going to make him look completely differently. Plus, he's a tall guy. So that there's a lot more that can be done with his physique. He could be improving every year for the next 5 years and bring in a completely different package, like the tall guys can. Because the short guys, they like Haddies and stuff, they tend to, it's more of a case of just kind of bringing the same. So I can imagine the next couple of years he's just gonna, because he's well set up, with finances and everything else. He's he's in a good spot. He's used to being a top guy in the world and handling the fan base and all the things that come along with it, whilst also improving. He's got his head switched on. So the next couple of years, I can't wait to see what Urs is going to bring.
Oh, I agree. I think he's in a great position right now. He's like everyone else. He gets critics saying, "Oh, he's too narrow, this and that." But give him time. He's only had one off season where he was able to actually try to grow. These other ones, he was holding back significantly because he knew he had to get down to 228 for the past few years. Now that there are no restrictions and no limits, he's got a great team. He's got Boss of Outlaw. He's good friends with Market Food. He's got a great girlfriend. Sponsors, the stars are aligned for this kid, the Miracle Bear Urs, and
also it's not like he won a pro show where there was 8 in the lineup and it was some low level pro show. He won 2 pro shows, and they were big lineups, and he won them. Didn't he win them straight first both shows?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
I mean, God, and the thing is, people were disappointed he got, was it 13th or 14th Olympia? I think that's a really good starting point for someone who was literally in the classic the year before to then go and and actually, look like you belong up there. I think because I think he's going to be higher than 14th next year. I mean, I think that's an absolute given. So for him, I think he should be very, very happy. That he took the decision to jump. Because at the end of the day, it was a huge gamble. Because thing is, sponsors could be like, well, hang on a minute, if you're not going to be 3rd at the Olympia in the Open this year, why should we? Renegotiate your contract, say, for example, or why should we continue, giving you a 5-year contract instead of let's just monitor it 1 year, because now you're a big fish in a little pond, you're a little fish in a big pond. So, but he proved him, he took the gamble, and also he probably, because by the sounds of it, he was really suffering mentally as well as physically by pulling himself down to classic. It was kind of thing is when you're putting as much work as you need to do a prep and to get ready for a show, any show. Especially when you got a weight limit and you're not enjoying the process, that's hard. That's hard mentally to keep going and to really bring the best version, and also to enjoy what you're doing. Oh, there's the article I wrote.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's your name. Yeah, he's signing an MD.
That's cool. I get everywhere.
Yeah. Wow. I had to pull that up to see who wrote it, whether it was you or me, but you wrote that one.
Look at the ab and thigh shot. Look at that. I love his front. And the thing is, he's got some really good shots. The ab and thigh, that front lat spread, even his frontal bicep, because his arms still need a bit more thickness. He's got some really, really strong shots. But I think for me, once he brings the back up, then I think he's going to be a threat. I'm not just a threat in these smaller pro shows, but I think we're like talking like top 3 Arnold Classic.
Oh yeah, I mean, people who know their history. Ronnie Coleman took last place in his first Olympia. I think Jay Cutler was last or second to last in his first Olympia.
13.
So
yeah, so he's same. He was the same.
Yeah. So exactly. So give Urs some time to grow. He's young. He's a tall guy with a big frame. He's got everything in place, mentally, physically, support system, everything points to this guy doing nothing but rising up the ranks from here.
I would, for 2026, I would love to see him bring the back and the arms up. I'd love to see him win at least one pro show, because I don't think he needs to win multiple pro shows. And I want to see him in the top 10 Olympia. I think realistically, for the stage he's at and the age he's at, I think like if he can move up, say 8th to 10th Olympia, win a pro show, keep putting on the 6 to 8, 10 pounds. I think that should be that. If I was him, that would be my ultimate goal for next year, because the kid is, he's already had a hell of a career, and he's still only 28. Yeah,
so my dream scenario would be he pops up at the, assuming the German show is again a qualifier for the Olympia. It's not late. It's not too late to qualify the Olympia. Pop up at that again, blow that show away. Get in the Olympia and crack the top 10 and start working your way up.
Yeah. Or see him do like, say, top 5 Dubai or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's July. It's not too soon.
Yeah.
We'll probably get some announcements from him soon as far as his 2026 plans. But Miracle Bear, Urs Kalecinski, congratulations. You were one of the biggest success stories of 2025. So
thank you for proving us wrong.
Yeah, we love being wrong. We love being wrong in cases like this. So those were some of 2025's top stories. I do have more in store coming up. The ones I have, and guys, this is where your comments are going to help me determine the way the next show goes. I have the Masters Olympia controversy, Derek Lunsford winning the Triple Crown, Sarah versus Nicole controversy, Mike Sommerfeld's Hairgate.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna put a story involving you, but I was like, we've done that enough. Let's cross.
No. Oh, no.
It was a big story, but we're done. We're done.
Please no. Put it to bed.
Guys,
I'd rather talk about having like a sex change or something than talk about that, or something horrible come up from my past that I was hoping would be dead and buried or something.
Okay, so those are the ideas I had, guys, for next week. The topics I planned on discussing. But in the comments below, this is where you come in and you can change the course of the next episode with whatever you tell me, because I'm forgetful. We know this. We know my memory's not great. So sometimes, you know how I came up with most of these stories? I went through Nick's Strength and Power videos. I love Nick. Because he's always got the top stories. He's basically I won't say TMZ. He's more like Sports Center. You know what Sports Center is? So ESPN's that big sports network in the U.S., based in the U.S., and they have a show that's been on since ESPN started in the early or mid 80s called Sports Center, where it's basically clips of all the big events, the top stories, the big games, the big plays. It saves you time, so you don't have to sit there and watch hours and hours of football and basketball and baseball. They sort of encapsulate it for you and bring it to you in a like a newsy way, and that's kind of like what Nick does on Nick's Strength and Power.
I like Nick.
Yeah, in 6-10 minutes you can get all the 3 or 4 times a week. That's all you need to watch to know exactly what's going on in the sport of bodybuilding.
I think he's quite fair. I don't really watch a lot of his videos, but he's quite on it. He's quite professional. He's very professional. He's got the respect of Arnold as well, because I've seen Arnold speak about him, and you can Arnold doesn't bullshit. He's not one of those corporate guys who he won't, if he doesn't really feel it. He's quite, and he doesn't really speak up for people unless he really feels it and thinks it. So that's a huge thing for him as well. But I like Nick. He's done a good job. Does a good job.
Not only that, he has an interview with Arnold on his channel.
That's a flex, isn't it? That's a flex.
Arnold doesn't do too many YouTube interviews, if you guys don't realize that. And Nick did the did the Giles thing. He did the live stream commentary for the Arnold a couple of years ago.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they brought him on for that. So, yeah, they think very highly of him. He's an Ohio guy. I'm sure that doesn't hurt.
Is he?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Oh, he's got a nice house out in the woods. He's always bears and raccoons and mountain lions coming around to visit him all the time. It's pretty crazy. I don't know about the mountain lions.
Ron, one last thing. I know because we like to go off script a little bit and talk about other stuff. I know we all like good training music, and I talked about this on the group chat, but I have discovered, and I hang my head in shame for not discovering this band before. Because you're like me, you like your Slipknot, your Five Finger Death Punch. We like good heavy stuff to train to.
Yeah.
When you're posting stuff, we always like to put the music to it, and we're quite similar in our taste in music. Parkway Drive.
Yes.
Australian heavy metal band, and I've just downloaded 2 of their albums. I can't even tell what the albums are called. And I am just jumping up and down around the kitchen, and I can't wait to go to the gym tonight and train on it. But I tell you what, guys, if it's like an Australian version of Five Finger Death Punch, honestly, and I think they're almost as good.
Huh.
Seriously, Ron, get onto it. And also Poppy as well, because she's Evanescence. You know Evanescence?
Yeah, of course.
They're doing a world tour, and the first date of the tour is in Leeds, which is 40 minutes away. So I'm going to go see them in September, and she's supporting. So check out Poppy. It's like heavy metal. But Parkway Drive, guys, like that is one of the most exciting discoveries musically. Because a friend of mine used to be a judge, guy called Paul Crook, ran a big supplement, very well known guy in the industry. He used to be my music guru, and he sadly died of cancer a couple of years ago. He got me into Five Finger, Slipknot, Sepultura, and all these other type bands and stuff. But yeah, Parkway Drive, guys. There's some. Just check them out on Instagram. Get some music downloaded. I tell you, get it on your phone or your iPod or whatever. Put your phone on flight safe so you're not checking your texts and because that's really starting to irritate me in the gyms, man. It's getting. I don't know whether I'm just noticing it more or whether I'm just getting less tolerant. But but that is proper training music. That's good for your sort of your main heavy set. So that's, Tiger recommends.
This is going to make me sound a lot less hardcore, so be prepared. But I don't really do tops. I don't get psyched up for the top sets the way I used to because I'm not getting any stronger. I'm sort of just maintaining the muscle. I use the music more now for the cardio because cardio for me without music that drives me, it's like unbearable. Like I've had times where like my headphones weren't charged. Like, oh no, now I have to do cardio without music. It's a slog, but
I've tried doing cardio watching podcasts and I can't do it because I got literally my treadmill's right here in the studio, and I can't podcast. It's too boring. It's too. I need music to keep me going because I put it right on the full incline, and I'm really like this. Today I was going crazy, honestly, on the because things like music it does because most people are musically stimulated and it does help. Connect with your training and your mood and stuff like that, and it does get you going. It's like instant motivation. I mean, it's just instant fire. Yeah. So, Parkway Drive, man. I mean, I can't believe because I saw a couple of their things on Instagram like in the last couple of years, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like my kind of music. But then I really looked into it, and like they've been around 20 years as well. But so I don't even know how they escaped my. But apparently they're huge in Australia, but they're just starting to crack it. Internationally, but I'm telling you, in terms of production and also they got like a lot of strong tracks. You get some heavy metal bands like Disturbed. There'll be like 1 or 2 tracks, and I couldn't even tell you any of the others. Like Queensryche was Silent Lucidity or something. They'll have one or 2 good tracks, and the rest is just kind of so. Parkway Drive, man. It's like I think because I'm getting bored of Five Finger Death Punch and Slipknot and stuff, but it's a lot of the same stuff, So to have some like a whole catalog, 20 years worth of this new music, I'm so fired up at the moment. I love it. Cardio's going great, and So and also sorry for not turning up last week, but I had like it wasn't a cold, it wasn't flu, it was kind of in between.
Huh.
And then it set my heart off. My heart was jumping all over the place. And then when that happens, I get really tired.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't do it, but I'm fine now, back to normal. Starting back cardio on Monday, and I'm back training tonight.
It was a kind of slow news week last week anyway. I was like struggling to think, what are we going to talk about this week? So it actually worked. Yeah. Things usually work out for the best in general, I think. I think everything happens for a reason.
I don't want people to get sick of us, Ron.
Yeah, well, I don't want to discourage people from watching this podcast during cardio. You should definitely watch this podcast during cardio.
True. Listen to
Especially
my
for those
voice.
of you who do the that steady state, slower, just walking cardio. If you're not
Yeah.
cranking, you know. So.
Or you can just keep rolling your eyes to all the bullshit I'm coming out with.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, guys, yeah. So we're going to do part 2 next week of the top stories of 2025 because we still have a couple weeks left in this year, 2025. And if you have any topics you want me to cover or think are worthy of being covered, big news stories, big news items, definitely put it in the comments below, and I will take them all under consideration. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I think the Andrew Jack tour is going to be split into 2 now.
What do you mean split into 2?
Well, it's growing, and also his demands from Cytec, his new sponsor, are kind of coming in between. So I said, look, why don't we split the tour into 2 halves? Because otherwise, if we put it in one, you know, Cytec are going to need you for stuff. It's going to get so he's basically I want to fulfill the demand. But I also, you know, because we've done the agreement, myself and Andrew and stuff like that. So he's keen because he really wants me to take him to certain countries. He's really keen because he said he's got a big fan base in these certain parts. Yeah. We were hoping to maybe add America, but I think January I'll decide on that one. But yeah, the demand on the Andrew tour, because I think, do you see what Jay said? Jay Cutler, he said, I think he said exactly, because I messaged him about it, and I said, Jay, I think Andrew's going to win everything next year, like Derek did this year. I think he can win the Arnold and the Olympia and the Arnold UK. And then 2 weeks later, he's posting saying, I think he was doing jaywalking. He says, I think next year, I think another, and Tarek said it as well on Primetime Muscle. He says another 5-6 pound of muscle. And I think it's a wrap. I think it's going to be, because remember I think you said a couple of times, you think over the next several years, you think the title's going to be changing hands regularly. Yes. You know, it's going to Derek, Samson, it could go back to Derek, go to Martin, it could go back to Samson, you know. But I think I really do think that Andrews, I feel like his stars are aligning for him now, and I think he's capable of winning it. I think he's capable of winning everything next year.
Oh, I mean, anyone who disagrees, you know,
stupid.
You don't have eyes. Yeah, you're a dummy. All right, man. So we'll reconvene next week and finish off the top stories of 2025. Drop those comments in, guys. I love your feedback. Even if you say we suck, it all helps. So comment away. Good, bad, indifferent. So, Giles, thank you once again for lending me your expertise and your wit. Always appreciated. Yeah. And that's it. We'll see you guys next week right here on